Hi, my name is Vivienne Tang, and today I will be presenting on how art shows the contrast between the woman in Sparta and in Athens. So, who am I? My name is Vivienne, and my mentor is Sydney Chavez. I live in San Francisco and go to Convent High School, where I am currently a rising sophomore. Some of my favorite things include traveling, art, and swimming. So you might ask, why this topic? Athens and Sparta were two city-states in what is now considered Greece, with around 132 miles in between them. While were not super close in distance, what makes them so interesting is how different they were. The main feature that really pushed me to choose these two cities was how Spartan women had many more rights than other women from that time. Since Athens was a major power near Sparta, and they actually had a war between them called the Peloponnesian War, I felt that the two were perfect subjects. For sources, I chose to only use art from the 5th or 6th century BC. Art has a large role in history with its visual depictions and meanings. Unlike texts, it can be interpreted in a variety of ways and reflects the culture of which it was created. Athenians were known for placing a high value on education and culture. Boys were always educated in academic subjects as well as extracurriculars. On the other hand, girls were not educated in anything that was not related to their life at home, which included cooking, raising children, and weaving. Unlike Athens, Sparta had a highly esteemed military, which was the most important part of their livelihood. Starting at the age of 7, both girls and boys learned academic skills as well as survival skills and athletics. Spartan women were considered completely equal to men and never performed the typical arts of Athenian women like weaving and spinning. Throughout ancient Greece, both of these places had the same set of gods and goddesses. However, each city had specific ones that they really looked up to depending on their values. So far, it seems that Sparta and Athens had absolutely nothing in common, but the one event that connected them was the Peloponnesian War. The war was fought between Athens and Sparta from 431 to 404 BC. This war altered ancient Greece because Athens, the original power of Greece, was losing strength to Sparta, a growing state. In the end, Athens was taken over by Sparta. One thing that we should keep in mind is that most of the sources we have documenting the Peloponnesian War are written from the Athenians' perspective, since Sparta did not record any of it. So, here I have a lead figure of a winged goddess, which is Laconian, that was created sometime during the late 7th century to early 6th century BC. It was found at the sanctuary of Artemis Orthia, along with over 100,000 similar lead figures. The figure was most likely meant to depict the winged Artemis. Thompson writes, the winged the identification of the goddess is represented standing erect with wings on her shoulders, while in either hand she grasps an animal or bird. Artemis Orthia was a Spartan goddess of hunting, chastity, and childbirth. Artemis promoted women's rights, especially when participating in predominantly male activities like battle and sports. Her wings and ability to fly away represent her freedom to do whatever she pleases, like Spartan women. Artemis Orthia played a large role in Sparta and reflected their beliefs when it came to playing sports. This bronze figure of a Laconian woman was made sometime from 520 to 500 BC. The figure was most likely part of a vessel based off of the feet positioning. Her body is very muscular, especially her legs, which are proportionally larger than the rest of her body. The artist purposely did this to hint to the viewer that her legs are an important part of the figure. In this case, it pushes the observer to realize that the woman is an athlete, specifically a runner. By knowing that this figure would have been found in one's home, it tells you that women playing sports was commonly accepted and actually encouraged. This Spartan woman represents how Spartans supported activity and physical strength in everyone, not just men. This is an Attic terracotta lekythos, an oil flask that was made by the Amazi painter from 550 to 530 BC. It is a symmetrical hourglass shape covered in black figure. Lekythoi are typically used in the kitchen to hold oil. However, this one was most likely used for funerary purposes. It has two specific regions, one strip on the top around the mouth, and one thicker strip in the middle of the lekythos. On the upper strip, there are 13 people surrounding the mouth, 8 of which are dancing, 4 serving the person in the middle, and lastly, the person sitting in the chair. Considering that this was a funerary object, the person opposite of the handle is either the person who has passed away or a goddess to protect them. For the lower section, it depicts women during the process of weaving and creating cloth. Using background knowledge, we also know that weaving was a female-dominated hobby and job. The person that this funerary object was made for might have been an avid weaver, which explains why the lekythos is focused on the stages of making cloth. Considering that the woman who has passed away had a lekythos that showed this process, it shows that weaving was a very respected activity in Athens. Unlike in Sparta, where weaving would have been left for helots, Athenian women spent much of their time in the house. This limestone stela was found at the shrine of Helen and Menelaus. It is from 580 to 570 BC and is significantly damaged, making it difficult to see. The person on the left, who is supposedly Menelaus, is wearing a helmet and holding a sword. For Helen, who is on the right, is wearing a long veil that almost reaches the ground. She is holding something thin and round, resembling a wreath, and handing it to Menelaus. This stela was most likely meant to depict a story where Helen goes off to Egypt, and when Menelaus finally arrives, he sees Helen about to wed an Egyptian ruler. Because of this, Menelaus killed Deiphobus and is about to slay Helen. However, he decided to forgive her and take her back as his wife. Helen was once a nature goddess, but lost her status and kept her feminine power. Nancy Joseph wrote, "In the case of Helen, the early feminist movement made Helen an unpopular figure, with her power deriving from her beauty and femininity. But," says Blondel, "feminism has more recently turned its attention to more feminine modes of power." Helen was an early figure of feminism, which she was heavily criticized for. Even today, many adapters make her seem like the antagonist in the story. Thank you.